Welcome back. What's up, the internet? I'm Kyle. We are still here. This is the last segment of our posted anniversary here on The Experience, which is our 6-month anniversary or 6-month celebration. For those of you who are going, what is he talking about? Your 1-year anniversary is your paper anniversary. If you're not quite there yet, you're only halfway there. You just have a small piece of paper, which is where the joke comes from. I promise. So it's legally different, though, than the thing that's trademarked by 3M. So I'm going to bring back in my co-compatriot, Jena, who has been with me all weekend and is tired of that joke, I'm certain.
It's funnier every time.
Well, you just get punchier. We are joined now by someone who I admire tremendously and have wanted to talk to like this for a really long time, because I really love listening to this person talk about comics. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Adam Freeman, who... Adam, what would you call yourself? You're kind of like me. You're kind of like a gypsy in the industry. You've just been around forever.
Yeah, sure.
And do a bunch of
journeyman.
Stuff, right?
I think I like journeyman. That's good. I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time. Long time. I think we're coming up on 27 years of being connected to selling comics or involved in the comics industry in one form or fashion. So, yeah, I don't know. You can't get rid of me. What is that? I mean, that's like a pest, I suppose. Like, you know, I don't know. Hang on, I just want to stop you there. It's been a long weekend. I have not been able to watch as much as I wanted to, but I have to ask, is this like some sort of like telethon where you have to keep going and like you're having some sort of medical intervention in the middle of it to make sure that you like survive it to get through it? I'm like, the end? You could have quit before me, man. I mean, like, no one would have noticed. No one knows who I am. It's totally fine.
I would have noticed.
What the hell, Kyle? What is going on?
No, I'm okay. So what's interesting is you started asking that question just as my internet that I've been using all weekend to do this gave up the ghost. I had to switch internet connections at the right time. So I had a little bit of a health scare this week. I'm currently locked up. I don't know what you'd call it. I can't leave this building.
Are you in the hospital?
I've got yes.
Don't worry. I already yelled at him twice this week.
But I'm here by choice at this point. Like,
you know what the thing about Post-it notes is that they're disposable. You couldn't toss this out and said I had to be in the hospital. All right, whatever. I'm not going to make your life choices. No, that's fine.
No, I knew
that's
Thursday
why I'm here, though.
I knew Thursday that we were going to be good to go for the show.
Okay.
Because at this point, I'm literally here because I won't let them discharge me.
Fair. All right.
So
let's get it done, man. I want to get this in before your afternoon pudding shows up, and because that's going to be a distraction. Jello, right?
Jello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's not name brand. I'm not ordering the pudding. It's real bad. So let's start here. You've been a retailer.
Yes.
You've worked for 5 publishers.
I mean, at this point, you count all the freelance jobs I've had. You count all of the clients that we've had at Prana. I think we're coming up on 24 publishers I have worked with or for full time. The full time ones are a smaller list. I started off with Fantagraphics back in the 90s, working as a kind of a regional sales guy. And my first real publishing job was with Top Cow. Then it was Valiant, and now I guess Bad Idea, but alongside my business of Prana DM. So yeah, I've been there. But on top of that, like I have to list them alphabetically at this point because they just there's too many.
The list of people you haven't worked with is shorter.
It's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah. I just go through the previews catalog and got it, need it, got it. Yeah.
Right, it's true. So
I've never made that joke before. I'm kind of proud of that one. That one's.
I love it. Yeah, you should use that one all the time. It's the previews catalog is just like your little black book.
Exactly. Yeah.
So for those who aren't aware, explain to people what Prana is and what you do with Prana.
So Prana is my company. It is a sales and marketing company. We do a lot of consulting, but we also do other services. For instance, we'll handle all of the exclusive covers for Aftershock. We do some stuff in and with my work with Bad Idea. We do, we have a consulting and business development with other clients. Many of our clients are on an NDA, so we talk about them in public. We kind of work with them behind the scenes. But yeah, we work with a number of different people. Got a small, dedicated, wonderful team that I work with, and we do our best to really focus. Most of our focus is on the direct market, Prana Direct Market Solutions. Is those comic shops, right? Those somewhere between 1,800 and 3,000 comic shops that there are in the world. We work with those. We know pretty much everything there is to know about working with comic shops. And so anybody who needs help, reaching them or understanding them or, kind of making a foothold in this market, we're able to help with those. So, yeah, I think that covers everything that we do with Prana. Yeah.
Right. And I think what I love about Prana, and this is why I say I admire you, is because Prana is the kind of what you do with Prana, you do direct with the direct market, is what I want to do with what I do, but I want to let everybody do this kind of stuff, like the online video, building your brand kind of outreachy stuff. And you really work on the nuts and bolts of how to be good at your job, and how to be successful in that regard.
I think I love comics retailers. I was a retailer myself for 17 years or so, and 10 of those as an owner operator at Brave New World Comics in Santa Clarita, California, which is still open. A man named Andy Legal, who I actually worked with at Valiant, now owns it. It's a weird, incestuous little circle. And we, I fell in love with these people, this community of entrepreneurs who are out there every day, creating a space for people like us, right? Creating a space for people who love this pop culture that we are all fascinated with. And it's that creation of the space, the place to be, that third place, that is famously talked about, that I find to be worthwhile and worth supporting and worth getting to know and worth investing in. And it is, in many ways, it is the thing. Comics retailers are the reason that there are Marvel movies now, right? They kept comics alive during a period when the rest of the world didn't really care. They were out there banging the drum evangelically, making sure that people were reading comics. And so there was a period that comics really should have died in the US, right? There are countries where there aren't really a lot of comic books. There are countries that comic books only really set in once everybody had digital devices, and that was their form of distribution. Comics retailers kept American comic books alive, and that's why we have them today, and that's why superheroes have taken over pop culture. So I think that there is this beautiful piece that we need to keep alive and understand. I can do that. I can do that for another hour if you want. If you want to go and
no,
get vitals taken or something, you go right ahead.
I was digesting all of that. Yeah, Jenna, do you have questions?
I have some very important questions, but they sound not important after all that.
No, please, let's hear it. Go. What do you got?
So, what has inspired you to keep going on the path that you are going? Or changing the path that you have been changing? Like, what has been your go. Your gumption.
Well, I mean, my landlord wants to get paid. But
bills, very good.
Aside from that, I would say that there's, this guy. And,
Hello.
I often joke that there's a certain amount of institutional knowledge that once you have it, you're not allowed to leave. And that's why you see people in comics like go from one job to the next, is that there's this institutional knowledge that we hold on to tightly and we value. There are, not a lot of people who do what I do. Not a lot of people who care about this as much as I've cared about it. So it has always been, it's been easy for me to pivot and move. I mean, I've been laid off. I've been, I want to say fired. I think there have been times where it was obvious to me and my employer that it was time for us to just part ways.
It was time for a separation.
What's that?
I know that one.
It was time for a separation.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We have reached a point in our lives where our paths have diverged. Yes. So, I've gone through all of those sort of iterations and pivoted and moved. And in many ways, that's part of why I wanted to build Prana, was because it allows me to work with a lot of different kinds of people, and to do that. So I think the answer to what inspires me is really those shops, and just getting to, I like to tinker. I think that I really love understanding how systems work so that you can break them or fix them or just find a loophole. One of the things that piece of feedback I'm most proud of is we had at Valiant, we had this brand manager at Diamond. So the brand manager is the person who works at Diamond, who works with the publisher. And we had this brand manager who said, Valiant, they're like the velociraptors of publishers. They're just always testing the fence, and they're going to find a hole, and they're going to exploit that hole. That's the stuff I like to do, and I know comics about as well as I know anything. So it's fun to find those still. Yeah.
And it's interesting that in your current position, you found the hole and are exploiting the hole, and it's causing so much uproar and so much fun for me. And I love every second.
Enjoy it. There are days when I
know
don't
it's been
necessarily.
nightmarish for you.
So good.
But it's what I think is great is that it's about time that someone has upset the apple cart, because it's going to force everybody else to pick up the apples and figure out how to do it again.
When they approached me about working, I'm assuming we're pivoting to Bad Idea here. So when they approached me about working with Bad Idea, I was, and for those of you who don't know, Bad Idea is a company that was founded by Dinesh Shamdasani and Warren Simons, two guys I worked with at Valiant. And they went off and decided, they said, what does it look like if you create a comic book publisher where you only do the work that you're proud of, right? So when you're working in a big company like, or a company that wants to be big, like you want to be Marvel 2.0, you add all of these things that you want it to be, right? You want to sell trade paperbacks into libraries. You want to try and crack Walmart. You want to make sure digital is happening. You want to have licensing. You want to have all of these things that makes you look like a big company and hopefully leads to growth and profit and money rains down from heaven. The problem with that is that you end up with a lot of people in desks, and you end up having to publish a lot of books in order to keep those people in their desks. And some of them, maybe the books are you're not so proud of, but man, they kept people on their desks. So they came and said, what does it look like if we create a publishing company where we don't have to do that, where we only publish 1 or 2 books a month that we like, the ones that are done, the ones that are finished and everybody's proud of. And so we did. We ended up building a company that would have been successful with 50 stores, right? Because we wanted to work directly with the stores, because all of the decisions that we made were kind of cobbled onto that. If you want to only have 1 or 2 titles a month, weirdly, indirectly, that means no digital. That means no trade paperbacks. That means no alternative covers, no variant covers, because that all requires extra people at desks. So we wanted to keep it super tight, and we wanted to make sure that we were doing work that we were proud of. And so everything we built, the rules, the destination stores, the crazy programs, all of it was about that. And so I think that answered the question. I don't remember the question.
No, it did.
I absolutely love, me and my husband have been following Dinesh since his Valiant days. We literally bought every book from Valiant that when he was in charge. So when he announced, like, oh yeah, bad idea, I went to Miss Jen's store, and I was like, and this is before I worked there. I was like, look, everything he does, we need it, please. And then I started working there, and then the book started coming out, and it was I see both sides of it though, where it's like some customers aren't very happy with us because the next idea person who yells at me, I'm probably going to jail. Monthly thing. That's a monthly thing. And then, but
feel free to just absorb that, and then just take it as a battery, and then pick up the phone and call me, and then expel it all out, because that's what everybody else does.
But at the same time, I love the books. We have so many people that come in, pick up the books. We love them, and it's just it's only those one or two people a month that are like. Well,
the thing is, we're going to talk about, what our philosophy with working with the retailers has really been about, we want to create the best possible product. And I believe we're doing that.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Right. I believe that our books stand against everything else on the shelves. I know that our print quality stands well above beyond.
That's not the problem, though. The problem is this one dude, we have a list of people who prepaid for certain things.
Yeah.
And this one dude's like, oh, I didn't pick mine up. And I'm like, I put a check mark by your name. So you did pick yours up. You're not getting another one. Please leave. You don't understand. I grew up in an alley across the street from a prison, and bikers at biker rallies every single weekend.
Try it.
I think the key is to get it tattooed somewhere on you that Karens are going to Karen. All we did was find the Karens.
You know what? We have a super passionate fan base.
Yes.
And we have set up rules that the stores are agree to follow in order to interact with them, right?
Yes.
Right? We did those things.
I hand it to you. I put a check mark. You don't get another one.
Yeah.
That is your one.
One per customer. I know. And, and then that's, again, all of those rules go back to, I can draw you a line from all of the rules that we're doing, that we have created, to that simple concept of just 2 titles a month that we're proud of. And, I can do it how does that affect the cost of tea in China? Was this game we played as kids. I can do that with everything that we've done. It all kind of comes back to that idea. How do we just focus on those 2 books? I feel your pain, and I know that there's some super passionate people out there who want to make that difficult. That has never been the goal, but it's always, I'll be honest, it's kind of fun when we see the uproar over putting out a comic book.
I love everything else about it. I really do. As a customer, everything. It's just, and then the one time during, I think it was a freeze that we had, our random freeze out of nowhere when books were delayed 2 weeks. I'm in Houston. I'm in South Texas.
I'm sorry. Ooh.
And our books were delayed. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. And people were calling the store every day. Is my book in? Is my book in? And we have this thing where we called you. We called you when they come in. We called you.
Okay.
I will say that among the things I'm proud of is I know for certain that there's no publisher in the market who's giving retailers a better markup. And I know that we are punching well above our weight as far as sending customers to you to pick these books up, right?
Love
it. But some of them are very passionate.
Oh, very. I'm usually the passionate one, but
all right. So we can go down this rabbit hole of pissing off Karens all day. But
I'm so good at it.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the goal here, which is not talking about Karens.
Oh yeah, sorry. No, I wanted to talk about how much I love the books.
Yes.
I literally have every single one that is up to date. I'm on the list for anything ever to come out for it.
I as someone who has had, I believe, I can say this truly. You said you wanted everything that had Dinesh's name in it. I believe that I can tell you my name has been in every comic that Dinesh's name has been in. So
well, then I have all of your stuff too. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So and my husband absolutely adores. He knows the names of every single person for every single book, and I'm like,
awesome.
Okay, I have a lot more other.
What's your husband's name?
Jay Burns.
Jay Burns. Got it. All right, Jay Burns. Thank you, man.
So
I'll make sure he gets up.
Adam, do you remember your first local comic shop experience?
Yeah. Do you remember
the shop, and is it still there?
No, it is not still there, but it was owned by a man that I would later see as a model, even a mentor. He actually did act as a mentor for me. You're in Houston, right? I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas.
Ooh, okay.
And at the Ridge, right near the Ridgemar Mall, was a comic shop. His name escapes me right this second. But it was co-owned by one Bob Wayne, who was for many, many years did essentially my job, but for DC Comics. Many, actually several decades. So wow. He was one of those people who kind of set up the idea that what I do is a career, right? So he has been and is a huge influence on our family. My oldest son calls him Uncle Bobby. So,
aww. Yeah. Was that the one that was running by earlier?
What's that?
Was that the kiddo that was running by earlier?
No. That's the youngest. Yeah, there's 10 years between them. So yeah.
Wow. I can't say anything. I'm the oldest of 6. I'm in my 30s, and my youngest sister is like 17. So
gotcha. Yes. Yeah.
So different ages. It's got to make it work one way or another, right?
Right.
Oh.
But yes, I do remember it, and I do remember I think I ended up buying Death in the Family.
Oh.
And now that wasn't my first comic, experience, but it was my first comic shop experience. So yeah, it was Death in the Family #2.
Yeah, one of our things here is we want to highlight local comic shops.
Amen.
Everybody here is a local comic shop person. I was until they decided that I'm not good enough at accounting to be able to keep my store open. So I'm doing a different thing. But everybody else here is a local comic shop person. And so
I also want to say really quickly, my second comic shop was co-owned by a man named Ron Killingsworth, who is now one of the owners of the Collective, also in the DFW area, and they are a Bad Idea destination store. So
I love that name.
Ron is one of those guys that's super active, like in the retailer groups, and he's one of those guys that when Ron put something up, I always kind of read it and wrote it down and was like, how can I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's true.
He's been at it essentially my whole life. So, that's got to be something.
So what about your local comic shop experience led you to wanting to be a retailer, and then when that was no longer a thing, wanting to work with the insane people that own comic shops?
Yes. Hey,
that is a path, right? Okay. So let's see if I can follow that path. So I was a comics fan at that point, and then once I finally, I'd been working since I was like 14, but right around the time when I was about 17 or so, it was the kind of cycle of the boom was beginning, right? We're talking late 80s, early 90s at this point. I'm a very old man. I know I don't look it.
Well, I feel kind of bad. I don't fit in with the facial hair and baldness, man.
Yeah. So you gotta. I think, by the way, you could pull it off. You have the face for it if you wanted to like shave that and just tape it there. Anyway, so let's see. My comics fandom kind of grew and grew and grew. I found a local comic shop that a buddy gave me a reference. I was getting a big discount, and I bought a bunch of books because I had, I was a teenager with no responsibilities. And I ended up being moved for the job that I was working in Texas. I got a job doing old-time photo studios. I was managing them and helping build them out and do this stuff because I had some like contractor experience, and moved to California where I helped open a studio at Magic Mountain, and immediately upon moving there, found the grocery store and the comic shop, which were a block away from each other, and that comic shop was Brave New World, which I ended up buying a number of years later. But it was owned by a man named Wade Wasinski, who started it. And Wade is now works in animation and is one of the, I think, producers of the Owl House series. If you guys have watched that, it's a big favorite around the house. Anyway. I've always been even to this day, if I'm not growing, it doesn't matter how much money I'm making, right? I just it's time to go. I wasn't growing in that studio. And I remember saying to my then girlfriend, my now ex-wife, I think I'm ready to be done at the old-time photo studio thing. And that week, on that like Wednesday, I went in to pick up my stuff, and the guy who was running the counter, a man named AJ Jyothkumar, who is actually a working artist, you can look up his stuff in comics, he said, "Hey, do you want a job?" So it was really as simple as that. It was the early 90s, and comic shops were booming, and this one store that Wade and his dad started grew out to 3 stores, and they needed help, and I had management experience. Then the late 90s happened, and the bust of the 90s popped. That bubble popped, and early 2000, my now ex-wife was then wife, and I sold a house, did really well with it, and we used some of that money to buy Brave New World. Did that for 10 years. And during that period, I was like you. This was early 2000s, and we started seeing the Delphi CBIA was up and running. Comic Book Industry Alliance, I think it was just a message board. The Delphi platform had the Warren Ellis Forum, and it had a few other really influential sort of places where people who were making comics kind of coalesced. CBIA was super active. Got to know all the retailers through there. I was a loudmouth. Can I say asshole? I was horrible. I was really the worst. But like many loudmouth assholes after me, I got noticed, and so I became sort of a fixture in comics, and accidentally named myself ATOM ! That's a dumb story, but that stuck with me throughout. And I think because I got to know that, when 2010, there was a recession in 2008. By 2010, Brave New World was really in trouble, and I needed to get a job. My partner, ex-wife now, was running Brave New World, and I decided to go out and see what I could find. And Top Cow hired me because I knew comics. I was always curious. I was always trying to get to know how the system worked. And so they hired me, and it's been kind of just from there. It's just been one step after the next. I haven't actually talked to an HR person or a recruiter ever. I just kind of keep pivoting. Yeah.
That's true. When I was in college, I got a job at a local radio station here in town because I knew how to drive the stick shift van. And I wasn't old enough to drink, so that everybody who worked for the station could go to the parties. and Kyle could bring the van.
Nice. That's good, man. You brought value.
Right, but that transitioned into, oh, Kyle also knows music. Well, let's put him on the air. Oh, Kyle also has a business back, like he's studying business in school. We can put him in the business department.
Yeah.
And so I learned every aspect of the broadcasting business, and parlayed that into they stole me away to go to CBS, and then ABC stole me away to go to ESPN. So as people are always calling me, you want a job. And then when I realized I didn't want to do that anymore, I bought the comic shop I shopped at. Like, I needed something to do. Like,
right. And you know what? That's what I love about comics retail, especially, is that I can name the number of stores, and you probably guess who they are, where they started it because they thought it was a good business opportunity, right? They thought they were going to make money here. So they didn't know anything about comics. They just thought, okay, this is a weekly product that is going to bring people in. We'll learn as we go. I can name them. And honestly, some of the most successful ones you would imagine. But majority of the stores, and part of the reason why they are just have such longevity is because they're just run by these crazy passionate people who just work their bodies to death and will do everything they can to get you that one comic book. And I think that says wonders about direct market. And honestly, part of the reason why the direct market continues on to this day, when there was just this, online retailers like Amazon and going digital media has just ravaged every other brick and mortar retail. Every other brick and mortar retail is on the ropes. Comics is one of the few outliers where you have not seen a change in the count of number of stores for the last, COVID changed this. I'm trying to actually figure out how much it changed this, but up until COVID, there had not been a change up or down 4%, the number of stores for the last 15 years.
Crazy.
It's insane.
And it was funny because I ended up falling into this world the same way. Like, I was working in security in downtown and I got stabbed. So it was time for me to walk away. And then it was just a needle. It was fine. It was just a needle.
Yeah, that happens to all of us.
And then I started working in the mall right here in the Woodlands at a very certain gaming store that people don't talk about. And I went in almost every single day. I would get off from my job and I would go into Space Cadets and I'd just sit there hugging the gumball machine that she has that looks like a rocket. And I'd be like, okay, I'm home now. It's okay. Nobody's going to spit on me again. It's okay. And then I would go buy stuff and I would sit there for hours just talking. And then finally they were like, hey, do you want to work here? And I was like, can I please? I don't want to go back there. Don't make me
and it's funny is I think most people who work in comic shops get hired the same way you do. I'm here. I love it. I'm passionate. And it's really, honestly, it tends up screwing them because they end up going from having a great customer to somebody who gets the employee discount. But that's how they staff their stores.
Yeah.
And then the way most publishers staff themselves is by hiring from people they meet at the stores. Yeah. So it really is this sort of people who are passionate are drawn to these epicenters, these cultural epicenters in their different communities, and then bubble their way up. If you're any good, you're stuck around. You stick around.
And then it was after almost a year of working with Miss Jen, the experience started, and she was like, "Kyle, this is Jena," and he's like, "Jena, do you want to do stuff?"
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what he sounded.
Social media.
Yeah.
Social media.
So I've had to keep up with all the different social medias. So I have roughly 17 nieces and nephews, ranging from the age of 15 to 2. And the only way they communicate is never texting, never calling. It's some sort of social media platform. One only does TikTok, one only does Instagram, one only does this. And so I've had to
young people.
I've had to adapt to that because they like to come to my house once or twice a month. I have, almost every other weekend, I have different amounts of those kids here. And so, to figure out how to keep up with all of my nieces and nephews and my brothers and sisters is
social media.
And so they were like, "You're good at it. Do it." And I was like, oh, okay. Are you going to give me money?
Not always the
And
way.
then,
Right.
You can get money
behind the scenes on all our shows. And so they were like, you're good talking, go. And I was like, okay.
Now you have to talk an entire weekend while Kyle goes and gets a CAT scan. You know.
No, that hasn't happened. But that's the interesting thing, right? Is the pivot in the industry, right? The pivot is the thing. It's I made a bad business decision 8 months prior to a global pandemic that put me in a position where I could keep my store open if I moved twice in 8 months, or I could close my store, or I could buy a building at the beginning of a global pandemic and definitely have to close my store.
Oh, goodness.
Right.
So what'd you end up doing?
I closed the store and paid off the lease so I didn't have to buy the building, and transition to any retailer out there who needs help getting online. Right. They know what, I'm here. Like,
Did I lose them or do you lose me? All right.
No, you're good. I'm here. It's
okay. Good.
I don't know, but it's, it's that pivot. It's the changing direction, but staying in the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the key is that it's part of why publishers last is that the pivot. I mean, you see like I immediately jumps to mind is Dark Horse is constantly pivoting their product mix. Like they're always tinkering. They're always playing. In many ways, Bad Idea is the same way. Like we're always still testing the fence, and we're still coming up with new ways to, tinker and play. Valiant was the same way. Like everybody I've worked with, I think part of the reason why they value me is because I am a pivoter. I'm all right, that didn't work. Okay, we'll try this. Okay, when that didn't work, all right. Well, hey, there was this one piece. Do you remember when we did that and it didn't quite work? Let's take that out of there and plug it in over here. I mean, that's the shit that that's what makes it interesting, and that's what that does creates value, right? Is that and is what ends up creating systems.
Yeah, it's true. So one of the things that I've heard you speak on, and it really inspired me, is you have a unique perspective on the way the future of this industry should kind of progress. You have, in the sense that, yes, I've heard you, and here's what I mean. In the way that if we do these things, we're going to be better. These are the mistakes that you're seeing people make, like because of your positioning, you get to see a lot of the mistakes people make and the things they can do to be better.
Yeah.
Looking at that now, what are you seeing like as some of the stuff that's happening as we're coming back from a pandemic, as we're getting our feet underneath us, that the retailers out there and the fans who are watching should know are going to be things that we have to deal with?
Well, so again, I think the resilience of the direct market, and part of the reason why it has been so resilient, even during a global pandemic that should have put brick and mortar stores out of business. I think the resilience of it is that pivot. It's that ability to say, okay, there's got to be something here that we can take advantage of. And I know that there are many stores that are suffering, but I also know that like more than half of the stores I talk to are like saying, having an amazing year, they're doing incredibly well. Collectibles took off during the pandemic because everybody was home and shopping. You guys created obviously an early model that a lot of people have taken and run with of this interaction, this experience of selling things live through video. Comic shops sell them, the staff, the people behind it, the retailers themselves, almost more than they sell the product, right? Why is your local comic shop what it is? Well, yours is because of Miss Jen, right? Yeah. And the people that are drawn to Miss Jen and their personalities, right? Those are the people that kept you coming back. It wasn't, it might be what Wolverine is doing this month, but probably not, right?
No, there's like 6 comic book stores all within 20 miles here, and everybody loves to come to Miss Jen's store because of the energy that we just sort of give off, and at least that's how I always felt it.
And a result of that, you've been able to use that energy through a new platform, through a new medium. And you're still selling the same product, which is, comics, but you're also selling yourselves, right? And you do that incredibly well. So you saw stores pivoting towards that. You saw them creating new avenues for selling the same product. And you saw the stores that were really intensely building what we call the long tail, like this big, broad inventory. You saw them do really well because a lot of those things started spiking in value while people were at home and getting super nerdy about their collections. So, we saw all of those things. So what does that look like for the future? Again, I don't know. But what I do know is I know that there are some best practices. And then one of the things that I have been, maybe I think part of what you're talking about, one of the things that I really focus on, both in the consulting and anytime I'm talking to stores and retailers, is the difference between metrics and feedback. Just to put the definition on those two things, right? Feedback is you talking to your customers, them saying, I want such and such, right? Metrics is how do they actually act, right? So they might say one thing and do another. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that retailers are the worst offenders at this, of saying they want one thing, but doing another thing every single time. And so you have to be real careful with, you don't want to, I don't mean this as a disrespect. I don't mean this as don't listen to them. What I mean is you have to listen to them with that filter of understanding what the metrics are. And so what we can see, how we see that for retailers to survive whatever is next. And I hope you're right. I hope we're coming back from COVID. I personally have my own fears about this. I think that the Delta variant is scary, and I think the Lambda variant is not looking much better, right? So it's still a crapshoot of whether or not I'm going to New York Comic Con and I can ride my bike to the Javits. Okay, so I can tell you that those things are real, but I can also tell you with absolute certainty that the direct market is going to not only survive whatever's next, but also thrive because of that passion, because of that pivot. And I think that the stores that are going to thrive the best, the ones that are going to exceed all other expectations, are the ones who know their numbers and focus on the metrics and look for, I have this theory, you look for the question in the metrics, you look for the answer in the feedback. So I can say, if somebody comes to me and says, your store has your aisles are too narrow, but my sales are continually increasing, my aisles might be just fine. If, however, I see that this one section is not doing well and it's got a very narrow aisle, maybe that feedback says, well, maybe if I just expand that aisle, the sales will go up. And if they do, that is the answer. So I got the answer from the feedback, but I had the question from the metric. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've tried a number of ways of presenting that idea. So yeah, I think that those are the stores that are going to do really well, and the ones that they're all pivoters. They're all hustlers. Yeah, they're gonna figure their way out.
The best thing is to sell the experience of selling all the comics and the love that we all have.
Amen. It's about experience. It's not about data. We have data. If data was the thing that was stopping us, we would all be billionaires with six-pack abs, right? Right? Yeah. It's not about data. It's not about selection, because if it were, I can pull out my phone and have anything I want in the world at my house in 2 days, and just using an app. Yeah. It's about the experience. It's about interacting with those people. It's about the relationship that I have with that retailer. It's about the relationship I have with the staff. It's about how I feel when I'm in that space, or when I even think about that space, right? When I'm watching video at home and I think about being in that place. That's what drives this. Yeah.
It's super true. And I've used your metrics versus feedback analogy, and I boiled it down for somebody to know where your numbers are. if you don't know where your numbers are, you can't ask the questions about how do you make your numbers better.
Yeah.
Like what's actually happening, and then you can say, okay, why isn't this doing better? And you can see what you're doing with that thing. So,
math is the
really
language of the world. It's the language of science. It's the language of business. Know the math, know the numbers. You understand those things.
And it took me going out of business because I couldn't afford to stay afloat during a pandemic to learn the math.
I see Miss Jen's game now. So she hired me, and I have a degree in applied mathematics, and our newest hire is getting her degree in physics. Oh my goodness! So she's hiring people who know math. That's her game. I see now.
Hey, Kyle, I have to tell you, man. Part of the reason that
she hires
the Brave New World did not do well after that recession is because I did not keep a tight enough rein on the numbers. I did not keep a tight enough rein on the math. If I look back, that was my failure. Was that I didn't. Yeah. It wasn't that I can't sell. It was just accounting.
Right. It took the experience taught me the math. So when I go back to that, I'll know, and that's the big part of it. So we have like 15 minutes left, and this has been an informative and heavy conversation. So it's time for some fun questions.
Oh boy, let's hit it.
Jenna.
So the most important question of the whole day. I've asked everybody this. Nobody has given me the same answer. Everybody's giving me different answers. So, what would be the last pie you would ever eat? Like, it's pie, and it's your flavor, and it's the last one ever. What flavor is it?
Oh. Man.
Yes.
I actually once had a birthday where it was a potluck, but you could only bring pie.
Yes.
And we had a macaroni and cheese pie. We had like a potato pie. We had, I love pie.
Yeah. We actually have a house of pie right around the corner of my house. So, yes.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
24 hours a day.
You say it, and honestly, like if you put like a gun to my head, this is your last day. The first thing that popped to mind was pecan.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Everybody has said everything else, and I'm like, somebody say no.
Getting that goop underneath the layer of pecans, right, man, is hard. But when you do, it's just divine.
We had somebody earlier say pecan, but I don't know what a pecan is. I know what a pecan is.
That's regional. I'll give them that. That's fine.
But yes, the most important question of the day.
Yeah.
What else you got? Come on, rapid fire, hit me.
If you were stuck in traffic for the rest of your life, and the CD was stuck in the CD player, what CD would you want it to be?
I am discovered this. We just did a long 5-week road trip where we went down south to see my family and Gabby's family. We went through Florida, we went through New Orleans, we went through Texas, and in it we got to play a lot of music, and I was reminded that I can do from start to finish, note to note, the entire They Might Be Giants Flood album. I could do a one-man show with just this thing. I'm pretty sure, like acoustically, I'm Bobby McFerrin, like just me and a microphone. I could do the whole album. I think that answers. Sure, let's go with that one.
I saw them play Flood end to end at Gen Con, and it was just a sea of nerds having this like religious experience. It was amazing.
Just blissed out. It must be like a Pentecostal like church, like people speaking in tongues. It's filled with the Holy Spirit. I can only imagine.
So here's a question I've been asking everybody. Okay. We haven't quite got a chance. What is your favorite project that you have worked on?
Oh God.
Yes.
The one I'm working on right now. The next one. No, that's not it. This is the one I had the idea for last night that kept me up till 2 a.m. That's my favorite project. It's always the next one. It's always the next one. There are a number of things I'm proud of. Like I said, I for the purposes of this, I listed out every job I've had and the awards and everything. And it was a nice moment of thinking, like some people, I use the analogy when I wrote about it. Some people build their careers like you would build a house. Like they just put one block and another block and another block. They just keep climbing this ladder. 2 metaphors, I know, but and they build things up around them. I haven't. I've just kind of navigated through this river and spun. Been pulled under and swam down the rapids.
River like you do here in Texas. Get on the inner tube and just float.
Yeah, I'm a tuber.
Ironically,
that's what I am.
Right. Ironically, I have a lot of friends who have climbed the corporate ladder, and I like to say, my friends climb the corporate ladder. I go down the corporate water slide. So,
I just keep falling into things like, oh, there we go.
Right.
Hi.
Yeah.
Right. So,
every single one of my jobs, and I've worked in every industry there is, I've just tripped into. My friends have been like, you want to work with us? And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah,
oh, hey, here's a major law firm. You want to be the secretary for the head of the lawyers? And I'm
yes,
like,
I do.
Okay. I think the reason they hired me was because I could keep like the new partners in line. They'd be like, this is their first day. They come in yelling to one of the other secretaries, making her cry or calling her dumb or something. And I would be the one that would walk up, toss my shoes, and be like, say it to me.
Let's go.
Say it to me.
I'm going to take off my jewels, taking out let's go. Pulling off my nails. Let's do it.
Right.
I would show them the paperwork that they didn't fill out right and say, see, you can't even do your job. Time for you to go.
Bring it.
Yeah. All right. So to end on a real note here, if you could give people out there watching who are in the industry or who want to be in the industry one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say, I've been approached by a number of people who wanted, come to me and say, how do I get your job? Right. And that always sounds threatening, but it's really, it's kind of nice. So I've gone through this a couple times, and I struggle, right? I think it was Mark Waid who once said, how do you break into comics is a hard question to answer, because every time we break in, we go back. Every time we find a hole in the wall, we go back in and mend it before somebody else finds it, right? But I don't think it's I think it's that institutional knowledge I'm talking about earlier. I think curiosity is the number one attribute. And to my mind, curiosity is what makes you a decent human, is this need to understand, need to take it apart, need to fill it. And I think if you have that curiosity, if you're always trying to learn and you're always, getting next to people that you can learn from and gathering those people together and doing your best to get that institutional knowledge that I was talking about earlier, I think at some point comics won't let you go. They just won't, because it needs people who understands how all of the gears work. And that's the career I built, is understanding how those gears work. So yeah, I would say learn.
I had a teacher in school when I was studying broadcasting that said, once it's in you, it's in you. And once it's in you, it won't go. You can't let it out. It's not like it's bad turkey. You're stuck with it. And I know.
The joke are we learning why you're in the hospital right now, Kyle? Did we learn something right there? No.
No. And what he meant is that no matter how ugly it gets, it's always there. It always comes back. You're always going to have it. And if you lean in, and he would end that by saying, lean into it. If use the knowledge you have to build other people's knowledge, and then they'll pay you for that most of the time.
I mean, I've built a career out of getting to know something that shouldn't exist. Brick and mortar retail should not exist. Yeah. Comics retailers. I mean, these are people who sell comic books, mostly to adults, right? Should not exist. And the smart money would have taken my brain and gone into I don't know, film development, maybe. Occasionally I hear that, right? Or any other, pick something actually practical. I could have been a lawyer, right? But the truth of the matter is that I am all of those experiences. I am that entire river that I tubed down to get here. And I think once you get to a place where you have built up enough river behind you, you're the only person for the job.
Well, all right, guys, we only have a couple of minutes left. Let's see. Where can everybody find you, or where can they buy your stuff? Like, where are you?
That's a great question. I think if you want to buy Bad Idea comics, oh, look at that. There's comments. I just noticed.
We've been slowly going through them through the conversation. So
if you want to buy Bad Idea comics, you really should go to whereisbadidea.com, and you can actually say to one of those comic book retailers, hey, I want to subscribe to this. And we send that pre-order information to the retailer, and they can follow up with you. Or you can go to badideacorp.com and find the retailer list. There's about 250 retailers worldwide that are carrying Bad Idea, and be nice. Just be nice. How hard is that? Just be nice.
Let's do this. You want to take this outside? There's an alley outside the store. Let's go.
Do not mess with Jena. I'm telling you, there's a reason that she already took her nails off. If you want to buy exclusive covers from Aftershock, they're out there. If you want to, like any of the other things that I work on, they're all over the place. Yeah.
I think I'm just gonna put up a graphic that I still have from when I did an event with Amy Chu a while back.
Oh yeah, I love Amy.
Number one rule in comic.
Exactly.
That's perfect. I love it.
Yeah. Seriously, Bad Idea fans, I get it. We've created a little fun game, right? We created rules. We created a game to play, and sometimes you get super competitive. But be nice to these people. They're the only ones that's making this work for you. Be nice.
Some of us aren't very nice back. If you're mean to me, I'm going to be mean to you back.
I'm not pissing you off, Jena. No. That's not happening.
No, he's going to leave that for me when I give you more social media work or something. So, Adam, thank you. Thank you for everything, man. Like, thank you for being here. Thank you for talking. Thank you for your insight and for supporting the direct market. Like, we love the direct market here at the Experience. I know you love the direct market, and it's going to be a wild next year. I guarantee it. So hopefully,
I can't wait to see what happens next. It's going to be awesome.
Hopefully, I will see you at New York. Even if it's not at the convention, it'll be in the block between Javits and wherever we're going. So,
yeah, you will see me. I'll be the guy in the hazmat suit with the.
Jena's not going anywhere. If you wanted to see her, I'm right here.
I feel you. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, I may go to New York Comic Con, just so I can get a proper slice of pizza.
I feel you.
And then come home.
I got you.
You can come to Texas.
I haven't had proper pizza in 18 months.
Darling, come on. Come on. I grew up in Fort Worth. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get a decent slice of pizza in Houston. I'm sorry. Not going to happen. And you're not going to get decent.
I've been to New York. I know what the pizza tastes like. There's a guy here who moved here from Brooklyn. Just open up his pizzeria. And it tastes so close. It's so good.
There's some guy who moved here from the hill country, Texas, who says he gives decent brisket, but that's not the case, darling. That is not the case.
No.
I can agree with that.
No, absolutely. It'll be me. This is New York Comic Con. It'll be me and Howard Chaykin just on a restaurant tour, I think is what will happen. Neither of us will ever see the convention. So, all right.
Convention.
We are out of time for the post-it anniversary. Stay tuned. Coming up next for a live sale from Fat Jack's Comic Crypt, one of the oldest continually operating direct market stores in the country in Philadelphia. They are up next here on The Experience, followed by a comic show with Aaron Halland of A Comic Shop. You
didn't ask, so Pokemon. I'm just going to say, Red Period.
I know. Yeah, Red Period. I love it. We will see everybody next time here on The Experience. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Jena. Thank you, everybody, from this weekend. Bye, guys.